This episode sucks already. Welcome to Ranger Reviews, a web series where we look at episodes of the TV show Power Rangers and then discuss them. Today we're exploring the 12th episode of the show, Power Rangers in Space, as well as the 262nd episode overall, titled The Great Evilyzer. We begin this episode seeing Phenomenus, Bulk, and Skull, and apparently they have invented a device that will give anything an attitude. Yeah, that's how we're starting it this week. Skull puts a toy in front of it and Phenomenus tries to make it super evil, according to the dial. He fires at it and it seems like nothing happened. It then turns evil with a new face mold and they're freaking out. The toy then comes after them and it goes into the van after them and it appears to attack or maybe have sex with them, I don't know. Ecliptor is outside and he finds the device stealing it. On the Dark Fortress, Astronema says, "An Evilyzer, good!" That's a fucking thing. They'll test it on the Rangers to make them evil, and Astronema even has a bigger plan though. A Quantron takes it and moves out. Meanwhile, on another planet that's just a place in California, Ashley and Andros are walking around and apparently gravity is way heavier here. Ashley even passes out, but nah, she's kinda fine. The planet is deserted, so Andros and Ashley go to leave. They were apparently looking for Dark Spectre. They get onto the galaxy gliders leaving. Then in space, Andros shows off his moves to Ashley. So then she does a backflip in space somehow. I don't know. This is terrible. Real bad. Luckily a Quantron is there and he fires at them with the Evilyzer, hitting Ashley's galaxy glider. Now it's going crazy because it's evil. She's about to fall into the abyss of space, but luckily Andros is there to grab her, and her galaxy glider just fucks off, I guess. They're going back to the ship. On the Dark Fortress, Elgar is talking about how the Rangers aren't scared at all, and he starts to complain about how bad Ecliptor is, but he shows up telling Elgar to go away. Astronema says the test was a success nonetheless. She wants another Evilyzer that's way bigger. She also needs a decoy to distract the Rangers. On the ship, apparently they're now docked with the Delta Megaship permanently. They scan the red galaxy glider and everything seems fine with that one. Deca suggests that a ray could have reversed the glider's central ion disseminators, turning them from positive to negative. What? Seriously, what? Carlos and Ashley just accept that this is apparently a thing. Then a gross-ass centipede monster shows up in town, blowing up buildings. TJ is telling Deca to scan for Zordon, but then the alarms go off. Cassie sees that there's a monster, so the 5 Rangers get together. Let's rock it! They rush onto the scene on Earth. The Quantrons get the big Evilyzer ready on the ship, and yeah, there's just a big dial for good to evil. The monster goes to get the Rangers' attention, and they seriously just teleport up to the top of a building. Seriously, wait, they can teleport? This would have resolved so many issues. Then they hear big footsteps and it's a new monster with a drill face. The Rangers fire at him with their Astro Blasters and he falls down, fading away. The Rangers think that this was stupid easy, so they go to leave. Now it's a frog monster and that lobster that they straight up murdered on that other planet. Then the drill one is back as well as Sting King and a moth monster I don't remember the name of. This is all weird and boring. Then Astronema fires the saddle lasers, making the centipede giant, and Andros makes the executive decision to handle the small monsters first for absolutely no reason. They hit them all down, but then they just stand right back up again, totally fine. Andros calls Deca for help and she says that the Delta Megazord is ready, so they call it out. What feels like 15 minutes later, the damn thing finally shows up on Earth, and Andros tells him to use the gyro blasters. Astronema calls for the Evilyzer, which fires down at Earth, hitting the Delta Megazord, making it evil. It won't listen to Andros, and it just turns into a ship form, leaving. Same. The Rangers then get hit down, and all the monsters disappear. They then see the Delta Megazord is now flying through town, firing at buildings and just blowing things up. Well, okay then. It lands and goes back to Megazord mode, now using its gyro blasters to blow up buildings and also Andros. Andros calls out the Astro Megazord finally, and another 15 minutes later, it finally shows up on Earth as well. Lots and lots of padding in this episode, guys. Andros is freaking out because he can't control the Delta Megazord at all, and the 2 robots start fighting each other, and Andros keeps yelling for it to stop, and then it stops for a second, so they assume that it actually worked, but no, then it just fires on them, blowing their shit up. Andros then tells Alpha to reverse the frequency or whatever, and Alpha just gives a best estimate, and Andros tries it because this episode's terrible. He puts his Battleizer into some port on the Astro Megazord, and they fire some cure beam, I guess, and Andros is trying to turn it good. Why don't they just put the Evilyzer on the Astro Megazord at this point too? Now the Astro Megazord is in panic mode and the Rangers are thinking about backing off. But then Astronema's Evilyzer sparks up. But the Rangers are out of energy and they can't do anything and Astronema thinks that they may have won. Then the Delta Megazord goes up, turning into a ship form and the Rangers follow. Guess they had some energy left. Then Andros just casually says that they should link up with the Delta Megazord, forming this whole new version of a Megazord. What the hell? This is the episode we're doing this in? There's been no build-up. After a lot of struggle and sparks, yeah, they form the Astro Delta Megazord. This is a horrible way to introduce this new Megazord. They return to Earth in their shiny new toy, and they find the monsters there, just standing there. They fire at them and they disappear for a second, and they do an energy search, and they find the centipede monster, who was invisible apparently. But then they're fighting the 5 monsters anyways, and after hitting them down, Andros initiates a flying power punch, shooting the Megazord's fist forward, hitting the centipede monster who just falls down and explodes. And then the other monsters explode too. This was real bad. On the Dark Fortress, Astronema is mad about the machine, and Elgar tries to talk himself up, so she tells him to shut up. Ecliptor points out that they need a monster of equal power to the Rangers now. Astronema requests a monster named Mamamite. Andros and Ashley then go out with the tubes on the ship, and they find her Galaxy Glider just hanging out in space, still being evil and stuff. She uses a ray gun on it, turning it good again, and then they take back off. Cool. In a field, Bulk, Skull, and Phenomenus finally fall to their feet, and they talk about how dumb it is to be scared of a toy. But then, the toy shows up in front of them, and they start freaking out and running away. The end. Seriously. What an impressive piece of crap of an episode. You know, I don't understand how In Space is regarded as, like, such an awesome season when it has such horrible flaws in some of these one-off episodes. I mean, sure, there are some good arcs in this season overall, but wow, this season is bad sometimes, and I don't think people remember that enough. So yeah, the only real takeaway for this entire episode is that the Astro Delta Megazord is a thing now. Next time, I'm probably going to be very unreasonably angry about an old lady, but until then, may the power protect you.